Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Teach Me Coco, the quick and easy way to learn iOS development. My name's Joel West, and this is episode 1. Alright, so in today's episode, we're going to be making your first application together. Now, most tutorials on the internet will have you walk through making an app that says Hello World. It is a tradition in programming to have that be your first app, but I find that a little bit boring, so we're going to make a little drinking game together that maybe you can pull out at a bar and impress some of your friends. Now, we're going to be coding together, but I'm also going to be teaching you some important stuff along the way. Some of the topics we'll address is how to create methods and how to call those methods. I'm going to show you a little bit around Storyboard. I've done some work in Storyboard to get you started, and I'll introduce you to some things on auto layout. Just a little bit of an introduction, but we won't get too much into that. And then finally, you'll be getting introduced to the array object and the string objects, which you'll be using all the time as developers. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is show you the application you're actually going to be making together. Now, the game is higher or lower, and you might have played this before with a deck of cards, but this is the app version. So when the game first starts up, you'll see either a number or a letter, a J for Jack, and whoever's turn it is, they have to say higher or lower, and if they get it wrong, they have to take a drink. So the card right now is a Jack. I'm going to say the next card's going to be higher, and it's a 5, which of course is lower than a Jack, so I have to take 2 drinks. Tap the screen again, it's the next person's turn. Let's say it's a 2 and they're like, the next card has a good chance of being higher, so they say higher. And they got it right as a queen. They do not have to drink. And that's all there is to the application. So hopefully you guys will have a little bit of fun with me as we make that. So in the description you'll see a link for a download. And in that download there's a folder called EpisodeOne. Go ahead and pop that open and open the Xcode project file here. And I've done a little bit of work for you guys to eliminate some of the boring stuff. But I'm going to show you real quickly what I've already done. So if you go to the assets here, you'll see there is an image asset called background image. These are 3 image files that I've included for you that are all ready to go at the different resolutions. And if you go to the main storyboard, I built up the view. You'll see there's a background image, there's this white view, there's some text. So I set the size, I completed all the auto layout for you. So for instance, this image view is pinned to always be on the left, top, and right edges of the screen, so no matter what screen you're running on, it should look pretty good. I've done a lot of the auto layout work for you, but feel free to look around here, and then if you hit the 4th item in here, you can look at the different attributes I've set, or the 4th one is the layout, so you can look at these are the different pins and constraints I've added. And we'll get into auto layout much more detailed later, but right now I want to focus on the code and not take up your guys' time with laying out this view. Okay, but that's all I've done. The rest is all going to be you. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and jump to an iPhone 6s here and hit the play button to run. And just to verify, before we do anything, we want to make sure that this application is going to run correctly. And that'll take just a little bit here. Running on iPhone 6, did I minimize it? There it is, just taking a little bit. And you can hit Command 2 or Command 3 to lower the resolution so it fits nicely on your screen. While that's loading up, I'm going to open up... Whoops, I don't want to do that. The project I already have done because I can't quite remember it all. So if we go to, while that's loading up, and I'm just going to be using that to cheat here. There we go, and it finally loaded up. And you'll see everything laid out pretty nice, no issues, but when we tap the screen, nothing happens. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is establish that this view controller is connected to the right piece of code. So now all an interface builder file or a storyboard file does is create objects for you. Now see this view object with this image and the text, all of that could have been created in code and all the different attributes or properties could have been manipulated. That'd be a little bit tedious to do completely in code. So with this I was able to drag the files and do all that work without any code. Now if you go to the home view controller and you go to the 3rd tab in, you can see that this is associated with, let's make that with view controller. So this code here, you have a file called view controller, is now associated to this view controller. Alright, pretty simple stuff. So the next thing we want to do is go to view controller, and this is the code that links between the two. Now the first thing we want to do is create references between the objects that change and code. So go ahead and hold Option and click on the viewcontroller.m file. This will let you open both files at once. You can have a split view, and you can hit the right and the bottom to hide those to give yourself a little more room to work with. Now the way we make a connection is we can grab the first item here, Pop that open here. And go ahead and right click and drag to your code. Now right under interface where it says view controller. Let go of that and go ahead and name that. We're going to call that number of we're going to call that card label. And then go and hit connect. So this is a property of our view. So all of our code can now access our card label, which is now connected to that object. So go ahead and do the same thing where it says one drink here. And we're going to call that one number of drinks label. And hit connect. So now our view controller has two properties or two objects it knows how to interact with, and those are connected. And the last thing we want to do is we have a button here which covers the entire thing. That's why we can touch anywhere on the screen. Right click and drag to the code here and let go, and we're going to call this screen tapped. And it's touch up inside. So this is when the finger lifts up off the screen. This code right here will be executed. I'm going to add a little bit of spacing, and I'm going to delete the other code here that Xcode provides we do not need. So any code we write here will be executed whenever the user taps that area of the screen, or in this case, all of the screen. Now the first thing we want to do is prevent the number of drinks label. We want to make that hidden if it's not hidden, and not hidden if it is hidden. So hopefully you followed that. So what we want to do is go self.number of drinks label. So we're saying, hey, I'm a view controller object, and a view controller object has this property, so my number of drinks label, and then it has a dot hidden property. So we can change that. Now we could put yes or we could put no, but something else we can do is we can go exclamation point and then self.number of drinks label. So what this is saying is whatever it is now, make it the opposite of that. So if it's hidden, make it not hidden. If it's not hidden, make it hidden. Okay, and then we're going to make a method here. Now methods either start with a plus or a minus. You can see this method starts with a minus. When I get into objects, we'll go into a little more detail why you'd use a plus in some cases or it acts on the class. A minus means it works on an instance of the class. That might not make a lot of sense to you right now. It doesn't really matter too much. 90% of the time you just need a minus symbol. So go ahead and hit a minus and then a space just so it looks pretty like Apple has it. Now in the parentheses is what it returns. This returns an IB action. Well, what we're doing right now is we're making a method that'll return a random card. So like a 1, a 2, a jack, a queen. So what we want to return is just a text. And in iOS development, a text is represented by NSString. So we need an NSString object. So we add our parentheses, and inside that parentheses, we want to put NSString. And then a space and a pointer. I'll get into more detail why you need a pointer, but for most cases, you just need to add the star, and that's all you have to do. And we're going to name this method random card. And then a space, a left curly brace, hit enter, and it makes a right curly brace for you. Okay, so the reason you have an error right now is it's saying this method is supposed to give us a string. Right now it gives us nothing. So control reaches a non-void function. So let's go ahead and get a string. So the first thing you want to do is make an array. I'm going to copy and paste this code over so you don't have to sit here and watch me type it. But it's just array. We're making an array object, and we're making a pointer, which I'll explain in the next video, called cards. Now this array is filled with different strings. So this is a string object called 1. This is another string object called 2, and 3 and 4, then jack, queen, king. Now all these objects together are stored in this one array, so that's why it's called cards. It's plural. It's a bunch of strings. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a random number between 0 and the number of items in this array. So we're saying our random index is a NS unsigned integer. That means it will always be positive. Arc4random gives us a random number between cards as our array and count is the number of objects. So we're always going to get a number between 0 and one of these numbers. So that just gives us a random number between 0 and 13. And then finally we can go return. So this will return an item. Cards space objects at index, and then we're going to put random index. And then put some brackets on it and a semicolon, and we are good to go. So what this brackets and the method is actually how you call methods. So if you were to look in an array, there is a method called object at index, and then you provide a number. So this number is going to be some random number. So let's say this number is 0. So it'd be the cards object. I can say, give me the object at index 0, which is 1 right here. So it's going to be one of these items that's returned. And that's all there is to it. And now we can go self.cardLabel.text equals, and then now we're going to call that method we just made. So we can go self and then random card. Give it a semicolon and we're good to go. So you'll see what happens is, hey, our object, we're a view controller. My card label, I have that card label property. The label has a text property, equals, and then I'm a view controller, so call my random card property I just made, which returns a string. So this random card called on self equals a string. So this is going to be like, let's say 1. So self.cardLabel.text equals 1. And that's all there is to it. So if we hit the play button here, we'll see if that is now returning random numbers. And you can see as you tap the screen, that does change. Okay, so a couple other things we want to do is make this drinks label appear and disappear, and provide a different number of drinks each time. And that'll be part of the next video. So stay tuned and we'll finish up this app together.